Hello there, it's Harper. Welcome to Pages and Reels. In today's episode, I am going to compare the book The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie with, to date, the only English-speaking screen adaptation of it that has ever come out, which was created by ITV in their series Agatha Christie's Poirot. It actually came out on the 16th of September 1990, which was the centenary of the author's birth. If you would like an analysis of just the book, however, that is also available on my channel, so please have a listen to it too. To make the content of this episode more structured and therefore clearer to understand and easier to understand for you guys, I have divided it into sections. So we will be discussing context, setting, story, and characters. Hope you enjoy the episode. Context. The book was written in 1916 and incorporates a lot of Agatha Christie's personal experiences as a nurse during World War I, including her experience with Belgian refugees, which is of course reflected through Poirot coming to England as a refugee in the novel. The book itself is set during the First World War, and as the reader, you do, in a minor way at least, get to find out what it might have been like for the people who had to live through such a terrible time. Mentions of things like rationing, Hastings' injury of course, and Poirot's gratitude towards Emily Inglethorpe's hospitality are examples of small but important details that remind you of the hardships of that time. I feel like this is why I like to read books written during a certain period. Retrospective, non-fiction historical books are of course incredibly informative and interesting, but fictional books written in the past can give you a deeper insight into the times because the author is of that time, if that makes sense. I just find it so fascinating, mainly also because it shows how much human nature doesn't actually change. Setting. The adaptation keeps to the setting of the novel completely, which is during World War I. I personally also liked how in the adaptation, hints of Hastings' PTSD are more obviously illustrated. In the very first scene of the episode, images of war flash past and you see a close-up of Hastings' face with an expression that is very reminiscent of what used to be called the 1,000-yard stare. The book doesn't go into detail about Hastings' war experiences and his subsequent trauma from it, so neither does the adaptation, but I thought it was good that the show does at least acknowledge it in some way. The episode is obviously set in England, outside of the city, so there is a rustic feel to the episode. Story. The story obviously is good because of its source material. Also, obviously, when converting content from page to media, there has to be some changes, but I didn't feel like any of the changes in the series altered the spirit of the book in any way. I will say this though, what I liked most about the TV series Poirot, and later on they actually change it, which I think is a shame, is that in the earlier seasons, they inject a lot more humour into the episodes, and I feel like that's what made the series endearing. The Poirot series actually turns a bit darker later on, and they also get rid of Miss Lemon, Inspector Japp, and even Hastings, and I thought, until like the last few episodes when they all sort of make an appearance, and I thought that, I thought that changed the endearing nature of the series. The later seasons are good, they're still good, but I thought it lost the Poirot that Agatha Christie created, who is more comical, more endearing. So that's just my 2 cents. But in this episode, because it is in the earlier seasons of Poirot, you still see Poirot as the quaint, comical, idiosyncratic character that he's in the novels. I really like his wry comments about English culture, and his need for order and tidiness is scattered all throughout the episode, and I think you find yourself smiling at his antics. I thought the episode was well thought out and organised, and it also managed to keep a good balance between showing and telling, which sometimes can be a bit difficult because Poirot ends up telling people how he figured out the crime. Characters. This last section will be the longest out of all the sections because Agatha Christie's characters, to me, are the best aspects of her books. What can we say about David Suchet other than he was born to play Poirot? To me, out of all the other Poirots that I've seen, and I know that some people are partial to Peter Ustinov, but just to me, there is no other actor that can be compared. David Suchet is perfect, iconic. Hugh Fraser as Hastings does a good job too. He has that wide-eyed, benign resting face that I feel is Hastings' innate character. But also because of this, I did feel at moments that he kind of looked out of place in his military uniform, I think. So yeah, but still well acted, I thought. As for the secondary characters, I thought Evie and Emily Inglethorpe were the most well cast, but the others, I mean, they were okay, but I did feel like they were maybe slightly miscast. For example, I imagined Mary Cavendish to be a cool, slightly Russian-looking woman with deep-set eyes. Maybe like an Eva Green type, even though Eva Green's French, but you know what I mean? That kind of look, that mysterious look to her that Hastings describes her as having. But the actor who plays Mary Cavendish is not really that type at all, and I felt like from time to time came across a bit whiny. I don't know. Cynthia too was not what I imagined. I was thinking a short, playful, blonde ingenue type who bounced around despite Emily's disapproving eye. And again, the actor who played her was kind of the exact opposite of that. I barely recall Lawrence in the episode, and John Cavendish also just kind of disappears into the background as well, I felt. However, the character that annoyed me the most in the episode was Alfred Inglethorpe. You may as well have had a wooden puppet play the character, and the effect would have been the same. They got his look accurate, with the beard, the glasses, but the acting was so stiff, he seemed barely human. Because this is the guy that two women apparently fell so deeply and passionately in love with that they threw common sense and logic to the wind. So clearly he had to have had some kind of charisma about him, even if he doesn't have much dialogue. But the acting was so stiff and uncharismatic that it actually took me out of the story. Sorry to anyone who thought the actor did a good job. Jap. He comes in a little later in the episode, and it's Jap. The actor plays the role in the expected way. The character himself is supposed to be kind of bland and unimaginative, so I guess the blandness in the acting is on point. He does have more life in other episodes of Poirot, and he does bring more to the story, but I think just in this one, less so. I feel like that's it for all the characters. I mean, there are other characters like Dorcas and Dr. Bauerstein, but I don't feel like they play much of a role, so... Although I did think Dorcas was funny, especially when she is pretending not to be eavesdropping. I thought the actor did a good job there. So, of course, I would recommend watching the series and the show and this episode, but keep in mind that it did come out in 1990, so it is dated in every way. But the acting is, particularly David Suchet and Hugh Fraser, the acting is good, and I do find it enjoyable and endearing, and I find myself when it's like cold and rainy, where I have a cup of coffee with me and I just watch it, and it's really comforting. For me anyway. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on. Until next time, bye!